Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. Welcome to a look at the Homefront Multiplayer as promised. I delayed this quite a bit because I wanted to spend some more time in the game so that I could get a better feel for it. So I've played enough of it now, I think, to give a judgment in its current state. We're just having a look at the armory right here and the selection of weapons available. It's not exactly one of the strong points of the game, as you can see. There's quite a lot of assault rifles, but very limited on anything else. There's only 2 LMGs, 2 SMGs, and 2 sniper rifles. There are various attachments available for the weapons, as you can see right there. You might note that there's a selection of marks for the particular sights that you can actually take. There is no real difference. They unlock all at the same time, and it just sort of changes the aesthetic of it a little bit. There's ACOGs, there is holoscopes, and there are red dots. Now, these attachments only unlock once you've used the weapon for a certain amount of time, which is a kind of a dumb idea in my opinion, because it encourages you to stick with one weapon. Like the ACR, for instance, I have attachments for it, as you can see. Holoscopes, red dots, silencer, shotgun, etc. Now, obviously, I'm going to want to continue using that weapon, and when I unlock a new weapon, I'm not so willing to use it because I won't have any attachments for it at all. Now, that's a fairly silly system in my honest opinion, and it shouldn't actually be in the game at all. As far as I'm concerned, either you should unlock the add-on and it should unlock for all of the weapons, or it should be like Black Ops whereby you just buy the add-on with points that you've accrued, and that's not the case here. Now, you do have 2 special weapons. As you can see right here, these are the selections available. Also, I've still got a bunch of these unlocked. I'm level 13, and a lot of them are still locked for me. I'm going to take a parrot drone, and I'm also going to take a machine gun drone. Now, what you also have here are what are effectively perks, and you've got 4 points to spend. And those 4 points will allow you to buy as many perks as you can afford for 4 points. Half of them still locked. A lot of the very useful ones, sadly. And the ones we're going to be taking are Penny Pincher, which reduces the cost of deploying special weapons like the drones, and Thick Skin, which gives extra health to the drones. This is my drone build, as you can tell. And drones do play a fairly significant part in this particular game. If you ever played Frontlines, that was fairly drone-heavy as well, and you'll find out exactly what's going on with that. Aside from that, you can also customize a loadout for vehicles, although only at very high levels. You can deploy these vehicles fairly early on, but you can't customize them with perks before certain levels. Like you see there, the attack chopper is like level 39 or whatever. Okay, so we'll go into a game, and I'm going to show you 2 matches. One of these is fairly good, and one of them is absolutely terrible. Now, I've got to apologize for my bad play here. There's a couple of reasons for it. Firstly, there's supposed to be a recorded game feature, like the theater mode in Black Ops and Halo, but it doesn't seem to work, and no one can figure out how to use it. There's no information on the forums or in the manual or anything like that, so I had to FRAPs this while I was playing. Now, this game has numerous performance problems, and even at 720p, it was running fairly badly while running FRAPs. It was at about 30 FPS, which to me is borderline unplayable for first-person shooters. Like 60 allows you to get the smoothness that you need and the accuracy that you need. 30 throws me the hell off, and I really do not like it. So you'll notice a number of moments here where I'm in gunfights. I probably should have won, but didn't really have the frame rate to actually do it properly. And secondly, I'm still feeling very sick, so I don't know what it is. I think it's an inner ear infection or something. It's throwing me for a loop. I'm dizzy all the time, so it's really not helping playing FPS. But whatever the case, the point is not to show off mad skills. It's to show you exactly how this game works. Now, you'll notice down there you can choose to spawn in a vehicle, although at the start you will not have enough battle points in order to do so. So let me explain the battle point system. Battle points is kind of like the way Killstreaks work in the one and only Call of Duty. However, you accrue battle points, and they are persistent throughout the game. So I start with 500 battle points, and I can spend these battle points to deploy special weapons. So I have a air recon drone right here. This is one of my favorite aspects of this game, and currently it's underused, which is causing a whole heap of problems. So this little recon drone will allow you to fly across the map and mark targets. And as you can see, it will point out ones that are fairly close to you, and then all you need to do is click on them in order to highlight them on the minimap for the rest of your teammates, which is extremely useful. Now, if you actually get that guy killed as a result of that, you mark it and somebody else kills it, you get a drone assist, which unlocks 40 battle points for you. Now, the thing about this game is that ranged combat is a lot more prevalent than it would be in, say, Call of Duty. There are a number of problems in that regard, particularly with sniper rifles, although you won't see as much sniper play on this map because there's a lot more cover. The map we're going to go on to next is a sniper paradise, and most of the kills there are done by sniper rifles. The sniper is considered right now to be, by a lot of the community, to be too easy to use, and having used it, I would pretty much agree with it. Honestly, it has very little recoil, it has an awful lot of range, and it has an awful lot of power. Now, the hitboxes are apparently too large for sniper rifles right now, which is why exactly things are the way they are, so I'm told, and Kaos is looking to actually get a fix for that. Another problem I'd have with it is the fact that the kill cam is fairly lousy. Half the time it doesn't actually work, and it gives you a few seconds before you respawn, and it'll sort of zoom across the map. Sometimes it's so far across the map you won't even get to them before you actually spawn again. And it also doesn't show you how you were killed, it only shows the person that killed you after the fight. So it doesn't rewind back in time and show you the fight, which is fairly problematic. I don't like that one little bit, and I would like to be able to see the combat and see, you know, what my opponent did, where did my opponent shoot me, if I was shooting back at him, what exactly happened, how many hits registered, and things like that. It's very difficult to get a bead on just exactly how good the netcode is and how good the hit tracking is, because you can't see that kind of thing. Now, this is my other drone. This is a machine gun drone. They're fairly powerful, although they don't have an awful lot of resilience. This is not really the ideal map to use them on, although they're quite good for sweeping around this area right here, as all of the objectives are under the underpass. So if you can send a machine gun drone into a tight confined space, you can clear out the area quite easily. Now, what I do like is the fact that drones also have streaks. So if I get a bunch of kills with this, then I will get a kill streak, and the way that kill streaks work in this game is odd. You've got to separate kill streaks from battle points. It's too easy to think, oh, well, kill streaks are the same as battle points. They're not really. Battle points, obviously, you use to deploy those two special weapons. You can bring two into any fight, and, of course, you can set up loadouts with various special weapons. And I would highly recommend you do that, by the way. Switching out loadouts in the middle of a game is way more useful than it would be in, say, Call of Duty. And I would highly recommend that you have setups for that, particularly once vehicles get on the field. You tend not to see many vehicles early on in the game because it's very hard to deploy a vehicle early on because you won't have the battle points for it. You can maybe deploy a Humvee, but you certainly can't deploy a tank. So later on in the game, once people start getting a lot of battle points, you see a lot more helicopters, you see a lot more tanks, APCs on the field, and things like that. And at that point, you need to consider grabbing a loadout that has something that can deal with those. There are a few weapons that you can deploy as special weapons that will be useful in an anti-vehicle scenario. You can get an RPG, which you get at kind of level 1, so that's very handy to have. That's a 3-shot launcher. You can deploy it pretty much whenever you want, and also you have EMP grenades. Almost everybody carries these things. These are your special grenades. I carry them for whenever I run into a vehicle. I can't kill it with them, but I can disable it so I can run away. So those things detonate on contact. They're very useful for taking out drones as well as taking out vehicles. Aside from that, RPG takes about 3 shots to kill a tank if you hit it from the rear. So it's fairly useful to have. There's also a proximity launcher, but you don't unlock that for ages. Proximity launcher is a much more useful weapon to use against, say, helicopters as well. The RPG is purely dumbfire. Proximity sort of explodes nearby, so you can actually hit helicopters with it, but good luck hitting a helicopter with an RPG. It's extremely unlikely. One of the problems that I've actually got right now at this stage in the game, which I think is probably going to shift as more people get to higher levels and get access to things like the anti-air drones and stuff like that, is that helicopters are really, really powerful. They're very difficult to bring down. They're completely immune to small arms fire. You need something much heavier than that in order to really do any damage to them at all. And, of course, you can take them out with other helicopters, but helicopters are quite expensive to deploy. I should also point out that the APCs have a gun which is quite effective against helicopters as well, although right now APCs are also underused because they're fairly similar in cost to a tank, and most people just want to get a tank out for obvious reasons, but APCs are really, really useful. Now, I think maybe the problem with this game is that this game benefits an awful lot from team play. See, what I'm doing right now is using the drone in order to scout out various areas and mark targets for my team. Now, I'm going to die right here to a drone that was actually shooting at me right there. But It seems to me that in a clan environment or in a team environment where you've got designated users of drones that can keep eyes on the enemy players, that will prove to be extremely useful and probably shift the metagame so that snipers are maybe not quite as dominant. I am really not sure how I did not kill that guy, honestly, or indeed how the other guys didn't see him, but there you go. I think that'll certainly help. There's another thing called the thermal goggles, which I don't have unlocked as of yet, but I have read on the forums that thermal goggles do change the state of the game as well, because they make seeing everything really easy. There's like no disadvantage using thermal goggles at all. This was actually pointed out in the beta of Homefront, and Kaos did not do anything to fix it. So that is very concerning to me, that once everyone gets thermal goggles, all they do is pretty much use that, and things are going to end up being a little bit silly as a direct result of that. I did grab a sniper rifle actually at one point that had thermal on it, and it was ridiculously easy to use. You could see enemies coming a mile off. They were very easy to pick out from the terrain. And in a game whereby long-range combat is encouraged as opposed to more close-range combat in, say, Call of Duty, being able to pick people out from the terrain is an incredibly critical thing. I don't necessarily disagree with the long-range combat in this game, but you do die very, very fast. As you've probably noticed, a couple of bullets will take you down. I would say that it is akin to hardcore on Call of Duty, although a little bit more balanced. God. I only took 2 shots there and went down almost instantly. You do have regenerating health in this game, and it does regenerate very fast, but usually you won't get the chance to actually use it. The only time you're really going to get major damage fall off is at extreme range with, say, SMGs and some of the assault rifles, although the one that I'm using right now doesn't have great range and accuracy. It's the ACR, and there are other weapons that have much better range and accuracy, and obviously I'm using a silencer as opposed to any kind of decent sight for it. I'm not using an ACOG or anything like that, so my ability to fire at great range is restricted. The nice thing is, though, when I fire, I won't show up on the minimap as a result of the silencer, and I also noticed that tracer fire in this game is very easy to see. So if you get a silencer, that'll reduce the muzzle flash quite a bit, which is also quite large. So on maps like this, it's kind of helpful to have, although it is a trade-off, and I do appreciate that. Now, the mode that we're playing right now goes by the name of ground control, and what it is capture 3 points, get to the victory win condition, and then you'll go on to another set of points. Now, it's a best of 3, so once you go on to the next set of points, it will be somewhere else on the map. You can potentially push them all the way back to the other set. There's like 2 sets of points on the map, as far as I recall. And if you then push them back to the old set of points, then the 3rd round will be played on those points. It's pretty much seamless. There's no division between the rounds, and it's a fairly good game mode, honestly. I don't really have a problem with it. Although, I would note that on certain maps there are so many snipers that capturing the points does become rather annoying. Although I do appreciate that on a lot of the maps there is quite a lot of cover, so capturing points is reasonable. You don't get killed off by helicopters all the time, you don't get killed off by drones all the time, and you are at less risk of being sniped. Obviously, if you go prone, you're at way less risk of being sniped, although if it's a sniper with a thermal scope, then good luck actually hiding from them. Doing fairly well right now. I've got an awful lot of battle points, and that means I should be able to deploy a vehicle for you. I've got a kill streak right now, so it might be time to tell you how kill streaks actually work. So, there's a mode called Battle Commander. Why didn't I not kill that guy? I'm such a spaz. There's a mode called Battle Commander, which is on most of the servers right now, and Battle Commander will put this NPC commander into the field. Now, whenever you kill an awful lot of enemies, you will gain a kill streak, but you will also start getting marked on the map for people. And the more you kill, the bigger threat you become, and you get designated a priority target. So, for instance, with the first kill streak I got right there, I got increased damage resistance. Sadly, it didn't help me, but hey, there you go. And it marked me on the map for 2 of the opposing team. So, it will show you the vague area. It won't show you exactly where they are, but it will show you the vague area. You've usually got to get eyes on them in order to see them properly, but it does make things a little bit interesting. Those kill streaks always they apply to pretty much everything you're in. A vehicle, a drone, or on foot. So that's kind of cool, actually. I do like that an awful lot, because getting a drone streak with, say, a spotting drone, you're just required to spot an awful lot of people in rapid succession. And you'll get marked on the map, which will make you a priority target to get shot at, but you gain things like increased armor, increased speed, self-regeneration, and instant repair, stuff like that. It's a very cool system, and I'm definitely a fan of it. It certainly adds to the feel of the game, and it's very difficult to become become unstoppable. What it also does is it applies a battle point bounty to you, so the more kills you get, the more rewarding it is to actually eliminate you. It's very good to deal with campers, for instance, because it'll start marking you out on the map there, and that's pretty good. Now, I know there's a missile warding thing with this, and there's also missile defense. I just don't know how to use it, because this is only the second time I've ever been in a chopper. I've only recently unlocked them, so I'm taking fire right now from a drone, and that's an anti-tank and anti-air drone, and it's one of the easiest ways to bring things like that down. Now, it is interesting to see the way that the game goes, because, say in a game like Battlefield, vehicles are available from the start. Now, in a game like this, vehicles don't tend to come into play until much later. So helicopters, like especially that attack helicopter, because it requires so much in terms of battle point cost to deploy, you don't see it until later on in the game. So deploying anti-air drones, for instance, becomes pointless. So you'll generally see that people will switch out their loadouts later on in the game to accommodate for the fact that there will be more vehicles on the field and there will be more aircraft that they actually have to deal with. It's an interesting state of affairs, and it's not something that you often see in these kind of multiplayer games, and I do appreciate that there's a bit of originality there. I don't really have so many frustrations on this particular map. I think that I'm just dying because I suck, really. The next map is a lot worse, and it's mostly because of the way that the map is designed and just how open it is for snipers. As I said before, there is so much cover on this map that snipers are not so much of a problem, although you do certainly see them around, but obviously snipers do have a place in the game. I dislike them in terms of the fact that we're playing ground control, so snipers don't actually contribute to ground control in really any meaningful way, which is problematic. There you go, you still see plenty of snipers over there, though, sitting on the ridge. There we go, a huge freaking nest of them. Because, hey, it's nice and easy to get kills with snipers, and you get plenty of points for it, and when you get your kills, you can unlock your special weapons, you can then hellfire missile someone, or you can get into a vehicle, and you can pretty much rinse repeat that, and not contribute a huge amount to the actual game. I don't know if it's as bad as Bad Company 2 in the way that recon, if you are a sniper rifle on a ridge, you are basically wasted space, and you really should be forward and spotting people and things like that, but it's pretty close. That's something I should also mention, by the way, that spotting in this game doesn't work all that well and is often fairly unreliable, so maybe if they fix that, then once again the sniper problem would become less of an issue. Also, things like personal UAV sweep, which is another special weapon, will allow you to see where your enemies are, and map awareness, I think, is incredibly critical because of how quick you die. You can't run around and then take a few bullets and hope that you'll be alright like you would on, say, Black Ops. On this game, you can very easily get zeroed in and nailed down. With, say, a decent weapon at range, you can do a lot of damage. I don't know what the hell I'm doing there, but it's just... So how am I missing that, guy? It's just the iron sights on this weapon suck. I don't know. I might go back to hollow scope or red dot on this particular thing, because the iron sights are horrible on the ACR. But whatever the case, I think that since you can pick somebody off at extreme range, and since you die so much, the whole thing about map awareness and the use of recon drones and the use of UAV sweeps and spotting and things like that, because the game is so new, it hasn't really become commonplace as of yet, and that is problematic, especially in pubby environments. I think that this game will work very well in a clan environment, and from my experience, when I've actually got in a group and things have been going really well, then I've been pretty happy with how it goes. There is a squad browser in this game, although for some reason you're not automatically put in one, which I think would probably benefit it just a little bit. People do play an awful lot of Lone Wolf right now. I think they'll maybe realize that that's a bad idea. Either that or they'll quit. That's a possibility as well, so there may be frustrations coming from that. I'm playing Lone Wolf at the minute as well, and it's really not helpful. But yeah, there is a squad function. I would highly recommend you use it. It's not to say all is lost if you go Lone Wolf, but it is an awful lot more difficult and less satisfying. I think that the Battle Commander function does help because it does display for multiple people, so it sort of gravitates people in a particular direction. It's like, oh, there's a threat over here, so we're going to go and deal with that threat. Nice, unlock the Scar L rifle, but as before, we can have a look at the Scar L, but I can't get any attachments for it, so I don't really want to use that right now, and I'm sort of used to the way the ACR handles, so I don't like that. That's an incredibly silly thing to do. I mean, I sort of understand the idea of locking stuff like the grenade launcher, even though the grenade launcher is nowhere near as powerful in this game. The airburst launcher, EMP launcher, and stuff like that. I don't understand locking the ACOG. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Why do I have to shoot more with this damn thing to get the ACOG? That to me is personal choice that shouldn't be restricted in that way. I understand locking stuff like the anti-air drone and stuff like that, although it caused a lot of problems in the first week because the first guys to unlock stuff like the helicopters, you can once you get to about level 10 and 12, you can deploy helicopters, you just can't do loadouts for them. It's like nobody could shoot the damn things down. On the first day, I saw some people that were like level 20 or whatever, and once they deployed a helicopter, nobody could kill them. There was a guy with like 52 kills and 3 deaths by the end of it, because nobody could kill the helicopters. I should point out that you do actually have access to the proximity launcher in a default loadout, but you can't put it into a custom loadout until much later. Not really sure what the rationale behind that was, but certainly on day one, people didn't really realize that, and they wanted their custom loadout, so there were barely any proximity launchers on the field. So helicopters were running rampant. I had this guy with 52 kills, 3 deaths, because there were no prox launchers on the field. Definitely worth switching out to that default loadout of explosives to deal with that. That will hopefully sort itself out over the next couple of months, assuming this game doesn't die, and I don't know what the hell's up with my frame rate on this map. But like I said, this game does have performance issues. You've seen flickering on the display right there. That's actually not usual. I'm fairly sure that's as a result of FRAPs. Usually, you don't get those graphics artifacts in this particular game, and I've been playing it quite a bit, so I haven't seen anything of the sort. And welcome to Sniper Heaven, folks. Population us. This map is probably the worst for sniping. There is one urban one that's pretty bad, but this is way worse. Completely lacks cover. There's plenty of very high points you can see almost the entire map on. And, of course, the range of your sniper rifle is pretty damn extreme. Both of the sniper rifles I've tried are fairly easy to use, and I don't like that at all. I really, really don't. There are a lot of complaints on the forums, but I would try and reserve most of my judgment for when people get higher level and hopefully realize the value of recon and things like that. But I don't know. I don't know if pubbies ever will, really. And I think this game, after a couple of months, might end up sort of dying down on the public side of things, and it maybe become a clan favorite. I mean, the Frontlines was played for quite a lot, and I'd say this is a better multiplayer game than Frontlines. I'm fairly happy to say that. Frontlines was pretty much a Battlefield clone, and it wasn't a very good one. Whereas this game does have enough of its own unique elements, like the battle point system is very good, and the drones and the use of the drones and the recon and things like that are also very cool. I also like the way the Killstreaks have been set up, so it melds elements from different games pretty well. Like, it'll take elements from Call of Duty, and I think battle points is a better system than Killstreaks, for instance. I don't know what it is about battle points. I think maybe it just evens the playing field out a little bit. If you're a better player, you can use this stuff a lot more. But if you are not so great a player, at least you will get to deploy some of this stuff. And you don't feel constantly frustrated as a result of that. Although there are other elements of the game that would frustrate a newer player a lot more, like being sniped by everybody and having just hell rain down on you by helicopters and attack drones that you don't have access to and things like that. I do question the way that the game's set up in that regard. Now, I should probably talk a little bit about weapon handling and things like that. There aren't a large variety of weapons. I will say that some of the weapons are very odd in terms of their range capability. For instance, the first submachine gun you get, you can actually kind of snipe across the map with that, which is bizarre. You get yourself a scope with that, and you can do a huge amount of damage with it. It's very easy to pulse, and the cone of fire on it, especially at sort of medium range, is very, very tight. Much tighter than you'd expect. You don't get that kind of thing in Call of Duty. You often don't get it in things like Battlefield either, so I don't know just how good an idea that is, and I think that does contribute to the long-range combat that goes on in here. But that also comes down to personal preference as well. Say, the maps are much larger on a game like this than they would ever be on Call of Duty. So if you were to take an example of how COD worked, then a lot of the engagements are happening at short to medium range. And here they're happening at long range, and a lot of people are going to prefer that, really. I don't really blame them. I think that maybe there is a place for a game that has more long-range combat, more sort of battle rifle play, that isn't Arma 2. Because, let's be honest, Arma 2 is really, really complicated, and it has a very, very high barrier to entry. Not only in terms of performance issues, but also in terms of the fact that it's just a very complicated game, and there's an awful lot of frustration involved in it. This game strikes a fairly reasonable balance. It's not perfect, certainly, but it's certainly not bad. I think that you're not going to get much value out of it, though, if you prefer to be a lone wolf player. Say, for instance, you've been playing Call of Duty and you want an experience that's similar because you're kind of bored of it. This is not the game for you. It isn't. It's just not. I would love to say that it was, but it isn't. However, if you're looking for something that's sort of Battlefield-ish with a little bit of variance, look, this is ridiculous. Look at that. It's like, I get on the sniper ridge. It's all right, there's snipers covering their snipers. I should have just shot the guy, but I wanted to knife him because I was feeling particularly petty. And there you go, I get punished for it. This is not a good game. This is not a good match at all. But if you're looking for that variance and you're looking for something a little bit different, you'll probably find it here. Graphically, as you can see, this is one of the maps where, you know, it is sunlight. The shadows I find extremely impressive, and the use of speed tree. The trees in this game look great. They really, really do, and I do appreciate that an awful lot. Texture work, not so amazing. You'll have seen some of that in my single-player video. You can see it more here because it's much, much lighter on this map, but the texture work on a lot of the ground areas is fairly weak. You see that rock right there looks fairly awful, and the depth of field and stuff like that doesn't really help an awful lot in that regard. The lighting effects, though, really, really good. You can very clearly see it. They don't use bloom too much. There is a lot of light through the trees, which I really, really like. And it is a fairly good-looking game. So I'm pretty happy with it in terms of that. It's a shame about the texture work, really. I have to have this feeling that maybe the consoles have something to do with that, but yeah, I would like to see higher resolution textures for this game, but they're going to have to sort out the performance issues before anything like that happens. Performance issues in multiplayer have been widespread. There are very large threads on the Homefront forums that say, you know, my frame rate is dropping down for no apparent reason. Some people are suggesting there's a memory leak that needs to be fixed. I think there was a recent patch because my frame rate issues have sort of evened out a little bit, although not by a huge amount. Still, while frapsing this, while say, if I fraps Call of Duty, I can... You know, my average frame rate in Call of Duty is probably about 120, 150 FPS or whatever, and if I fraps, it'll knock it down maybe to about 90, and sometimes it'll dip to 60, but in this game, it was 30 straight away. Like, it was locking it down to 30, and my average frame rate on a machine, which you can see in my summary on my YouTube channel, it's fairly powerful, I don't think you really get much more powerful than this, is it's about 60 most of the time, although it has been known to dip to around 30, 40 every now and again, which I really do not like. Die, please. Thank you. Note there's very little sway on the sniper rifle. I don't use the sniper rifle all that much. It's not something that I'm really a fan of, mainly because a lot of people use it anyway, so it seems fairly easy to use once you get the hang of it. Doesn't help that it feels like I've got sway because my goddamn head is spinning, but whatever the case. I like that guy. I've got a lot of respect for that guy because he's actually sweeping the areas and the ridges where snipers usually are. And that is the kind of thing I like to do in various games like PlanetSide, for instance. You know, a lot of sniping happened in PlanetSide, and it was fairly balanced in PlanetSide because there were no hitboxes on the head anyway. So you had to hit somebody twice in order to kill them in normal armor, and 3 times if they healed in between that. So I like to drop down and sweep the ridges and kill snipers and things like that in PlanetSide, and people are sort of learning how to do that in this game as well, so that's pretty good. Now, I'm fairly sure I shot that guy in the arm, and that killed him instantly, which seems to be a bit ridiculous. Although you'll notice that the last kill I got with the sniper rifle, that wasn't such a big deal. I had to hit him twice. I don't know if I think there must be damage fall-off in this game, although bullet fall-off doesn't seem to happen. I'm fairly sure these weapons are pretty much hit scan. They certainly feel like they're hit scan. If they're not hit scan, then the velocity on the bullets is very high. If you've sniped with, say, a Barrett or a Gaull in Bad Company 2, then you'll be aware of the bullet fall-off there, and the fact that you can make the shot, and oh, damn it. And that it will hit the target a little bit later, and you'll sort of get the hit registration later and maybe get the kill, and you've got to aim slightly above the head and things like that. Sniping is a good experience in Bad Company. I wouldn't say it's a good experience in Homefront. It's not all that enjoyable, although those who are looking to do nothing more than rack up kills and be IR elite lone wolf sniper, they're going to love that, because this game caters to it in almost every respect and will continue to do so, I think, until people just get a hang of how recon works and things like that. And also when spot gets fixed, you know, that'll really help. Then you can actually have counter snipers who say, oh, well, I can't take all of these guys out, but I can spot them for the enemy, and it'll actually frickin' work. Now, here I'm using a personal UAV sweep, so I'm trying to keep an eye on where people actually are. Although I must point out that some people have said, oh, personal UAV sweep is quite OP, but it's not really. I mean, it costs 400 and it costs 320 if you've got Penny Pincher. I wouldn't call it amazingly overpowered. It doesn't work for everybody. That's why it's called personal UAV sweep. So, I don't know just how overpowered I would really call it, honestly. But it is nice to have, and it's fairly easy to deploy. I still prefer the drone. It's a much more hands-on way of doing things, although you are at great, unbelievably great risk of actually dying if you make use of the drone, because you are controlling the drone, and you control the drone for, like, say you remember the RCXD in Black Ops, you only control that for maybe 10 seconds, because you'll find it tight and bloated. You can be in a drone for, like, upwards of friggin' minute, especially if you've got the battery perk, which will let you keep it up for a lot longer. You see there, I've been up for maybe 25, 30 seconds, and I'm not even at half battery yet. So you can be in a drone for ages, and it makes you very, very vulnerable. Even if you go prone and hide behind a rock, there'll always be snipers who can probably find you. What I'd also say with these is that it's very useful to use a drone to hunt down a priority threat, because people don't know exactly where he is, but you can mark him for them, and then you can get somebody else to kill him. Also, you get assist points for that, so it's pretty good. Now, we're coming towards the end of this video now, I think, and hey, look, vehicles, right. So, vehicles are now sort of coming on the field, and I'm going to demonstrate the idea of switching out loadouts in order to actually deal with them. So I'm going to switch to my AV loadout right here. AV loadout, I've got a submachine gun, a flak jacket, and a rocket launcher. Obviously, I prefer proximity launcher, things like that, but I don't have them, so it's a bloody light helicopter up there, which is reaping a terrible toll on pretty much everybody. It's okay. Thankfully, light helicopters are not as armored. I don't think this SMG did too much damage, but hey, I got the assist. Okay, let's get the RPG launcher out. So you get this pretty much instantly, and then you can try and do as much damage. It reloads really fast, although in this case not quite quick enough because someone else then sniped me immediately. But yeah, if you get a good number of shots on it, then you can usually take him down. And the nice thing is the RPG persists through death. So unlike, say, the Grim Reaper Killstreak reward, which obviously you just get randomly in Black Ops, you can keep hold of the RPG, and you can use the RPG quite a lot. I mean, it does have uses against infantry in buildings like that, for instance. He had a rifle, I think that was a sniper rifle, actually, and I had a submachine gun, so that was a foregone conclusion. You can certainly hit people with SMGs. I don't know really what the damage fall-off on this particular one is, although I know the Diablo, which is the first one, that's pretty good at range. It's not as terrible as you might think. Think the AK-74U in Black Ops in terms of the performance at medium to long ranges. You know, I'd love for it to give more information here. It tells me what perks the guy has, but it doesn't tell me what weapon configuration he's got, and it doesn't let you see for long enough to actually figure it out. In terms of weapon variety, I can't say I'm all that happy with it. There is a reasonable amount of customization, although not as much as, say, Black Ops or, hell, even Bad Company 2, I think, had a little bit more than that, but I don't think it's necessary to have a huge amount of weapons. But I think the fact that they've given you 6 assault rifles and then only give you 2 of every other class, and there's a downloadable gun called the Express Shotgun. As far as I can tell, it's pretty much goddamn useless. Now, if you do want shotguns in this game, you can get an underslung shotgun for every assault rifle, but the fact that there are no actual shotties other than that downloadable one, that no doubt they will make available for purchase at some point. It's not available yet, but you got it with the pre-order Resistance Pack, the special edition. The fact that that's actually a feature of the game is fairly ridiculous, although I think they also realized, yay, Insta-Lunge knife. Gotta love it. They realized that this game is not designed around shotguns at all. I took the underslung shotgun, and I could not find a use for it. It does have 15 rounds in it, so it is effectively like having a shotgun, but you've got to switch to it. So it's so unlikely that you'll ever use it, and you die so fast to bullets anyway, that I really can't see all that many maps that would actually benefit from having a shotty. Certainly not this one. Maybe one of the urban maps, maybe, but I don't know, I'm not convinced by it. Anyway, conclusion. It is not a terrible game. It certainly isn't. It has a lot of things going for it. I just think that in a pubby environment, it doesn't really help the way that it's actually set up. It is not designed around lone wolf play, which means that a lot of people really aren't sort of getting the idea of it. And because of the state of the metagame right now, where people aren't using recon enough and things like that, and spot doesn't work properly, you get a lot of snipers, and the long-range engagements where you get shot by somebody you can't even see, that becomes very frustrating. It reminds me a little bit of joint operations and stuff like that. It's not the kind of thing you want. It's very frustrating to have happen. I think that as a clan game and as a team game, it would be a fairly good one. I mean, it is not a bad multiplayer experience. This is obviously being played on PC. I don't know how it really fares on consoles, but if you were to play as a team and if you were to have clans and clan matches, I think there's a lot of value to be had there, because you can designate, well, this guy's going to go get a chopper and things like that, and more to the point, people would actually use vehicles, like Humvees, for instance. You can have multiple people in them. People barely go in the damn things. So if you used more Humvees and had more Humvees deployed on the map, and you had more APCs and things like that, then it would give you this combined arms feel, and it would give you that Battlefield theme, but with enough of a difference between it to not have you saying, well, why the hell aren't I just playing Battlefield 2 or even Bad Company? So, it's not bad, honestly. I hesitate to recommend it at this current price, because it does have still an awful lot of performance issues, and sniping is going to frustrate the hell out of you. I think that maybe hold off on it for a while, see what Kaos does with it, see what kind of support that they bring in. If they're able to fix the performance issues, deal with the sniper situation, and maybe do a little bit of fixing in terms of the way that the perks are given out and the individual weapons are given out and the add-ons are given out, then it might be worth a look. Certainly it may be a reduced price. I don't think I'd pay full price for it in its current state. I don't think that's reasonable, but it is not as bad as it could have been. And it certainly provides an awful lot more enjoyment than the single player. I'll probably keep playing this, but I'm most likely only going to play with friends, because lone wolf play on the game is a little bit too frustrating because of the way that it's actually set up. But there you go. That's Homefront. That's Homefront Multiplayer for you. That's a look at it. And once again, I apologize for my terrible play in those particular games, but God, I could barely make it down the stairs without falling over right now, because it feels like my head is spinning, and it has been for 5 days, so my aim is a little off. Let me put it that way. I should probably just go back to Angry Birds. My name is Totalbiscuit. There you go. That's a look at Homefront Multiplayer, and I will see you next time.